Imagine being a 19-year-old college student, out with friends, trusting that the people you're with will get you home safely. But instead, you're left on a dark road, alone, leading to a tragic end. This is the story of Madison Brooks. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Voltage and Villains. I'm Phoenix.
And I'm Moira.
And today we're going to be covering the tragic case of Madison Kennedy Brooks, the LSU student who tragically passed away, and the case that stirred up a whirlwind of events. Have you ever heard of this case before?
No, I have not.
Okay.
This is all news to my ears.
Madison Kennedy Brooks, she was described as the kind of person who lit up every room that she walked into. She was a 19-year-old sophomore at Louisiana State University, known famously as LSU. She was vibrant, adventurous, and she loved skiing, skydiving, traveling, and simply just spending time with friends and family. Maddie was excelling at school. She had apparently crushed 34 credits her freshman year.
Dang.
Worked a job, pledged Alpha Phi, and had just been accepted into the prestigious Manship School of Mass Communication.
She was killing it.
She was crushing
34 credits in your freshman year is what? It's like 7 credits. That's like 5, almost 6 classes, maybe more.
Yeah. Apparently she took classes during the summer as well to make sure that she can earn extra credits, while everyone was going home, and she stayed back and took those extra classes.
She's smart.
So she was doing everything right. But on January 15th, 2023, Maddie went out for a night of fun with friends, and she never made it back home. So this is January 15th, 2023. That night, Madison headed out to a place called Reggie's Bar in Baton Rouge. It's apparently a spot that doesn't have the best reputation.
Yeah, it sounds sketchy.
Now, at 10:18 p.m., 4 guys that she knew loosely showed up at the bar. Their names are Kayvon Washington, Kason Carver, Everett Lee, and a 17-year-old minor. Now, the 17-year-old minor, we don't know his name because
he's a minor.
So he was a minor at the time, so they don't say his name in any of the case articles. Now, even though later on in the investigation, these 4 men claim that they barely knew Madison, but surveillance showed that she was dancing with the 17-year-old, hugging him, and stumbling around. She was clearly heavily intoxicated.
Whoa.
So
how did she know them in the first place? Is that...
No. It was, just like mutual friends of friends.
Okay.
So they didn't really know each other, heavily,
yeah.
But in passing, they probably frequent that bar. Just like it's a college bar. It's very popular among college students.
Okay, that makes sense.
So at some point, they all go to leave the bar, and Maddie walks over to them and asks them for a ride home. Kason, one of the guys, agreed. He said he didn't feel right leaving her by herself because he admitted that, she was slurring her words and she was clearly out of it.
Oh, shit.
So in his mind, leaving her in that state after just hanging out with her for the whole night was not, he didn't feel morally okay with just leaving her there, considering the fact that she walked up and asked for a ride.
That makes sense. And that's fair.
There is footage of them leaving the bar. At around 1:49 a.m., they're seen heading to Kason's car. So Kason, who's 18, was driving. Everett is 28 at the time, and he was in the passenger seat. In the back, there was a 17-year-old, Kayvon, Maddie.
How old is Kayvon?
Kayvon, I think, is around 17, 18 years old.
That's weird. Why is that 28-year-old hanging out with the 17, 18-year-old?
What's funny? I was thinking,
creepy.
When I was reading this, I was thinking the same thing. Like, I'm 28 right now, and I don't have any friends. I don't even know anybody that's 18 years old. Obviously, I know of people that's friends and family. Right. I don't know anyone outside my family that's 18 years old. Nor would I
go to a bar with the 17, 18-year-old.
Yeah, that's
not in my right mind.
And a 17-year-old at that. But remember what we said. Remember what I said. This bar is known for being
sketchy.
And we're going to get into that in a second.
Okay.
So as I said before, Kason, 18, he's driving. Everett's 28, he's in the passenger seat. In the back is the 17-year-old, Kayvon, and Maddie. Maddie was apparently slumped over and barely able to give her address. Now, this is why this next chain of events ends up happening. So she can't give her address. So instead of taking her straight home, they just drove around. I guess talking, just driving around, because she couldn't give them clear directions to
where she had
to go. And eventually they pulled over on a side street, Jennifer Jean Drive. And according to Kaysen, who's the driver, he heard the 17-year-old ask Madison on 5 different occasions if she wanted to have sex with him. And allegedly, Madison gave verbal consent.
Oh, shit.
Now, Kaysen claimed that both the 17-year-old and Kayvon, who was in the back with Madison, ended up having sex with Madison in the back of the car, while Everett, the 28-year-old, and Kaysen, the 18-year-old, were in the front of the car.
What the hell?
So it was already a weird setup.
Yeah, that's really odd. What the hell is going on?
Yeah. So in my opinion,
and
as I'm reading this, the 28-year-old's already on weird timing.
Yeah,
like,
he's already...
You should know better. Like, what the hell is going on? But
you should have stopped that shit the second you heard it. Like, what the fuck?
But I mean, hey, like, according to him, she agreed. So, but I just think that it's weird that you would be in the same car with minors while that's happening. Like, I feel like that within itself is a problem.
But like, it's your car. Does that make sense? Like, it's your car.
No, it's not. It's not the 28-year-old's
no,
car.
but it's Kayvon.
No, it's Kaysen's car. 18-year-old Kaysen.
It's Kaysen's car.
Yeah.
It's your car. You're kind of in control of what happens. Like,
But he's 18. He's not 28.
Yeah, exactly.
The man in the passenger seat.
Yeah, but the guy driving the car, it's his car. So you can be like, can we not do that in my car? And then the 28-year-old is already weird.
But hold on. So apparently people asked Kaysen, like, hey, do you think that Madison was too drunk to consent? He said, quote unquote, I guess.
Is that what he said? He said, I guess?
He said, I guess.
Are you kidding me?
Now, afterward, Kaysen drove around aimlessly because he still was not able to find her address because she couldn't tell him where to go.
Of course.
Or she wasn't telling him where to go. Whatever happened, we don't know the specifics. But at some point, it's not clear why, but they let her out on Burbank Drive.
What the hell?
Maybe she wanted to get out on her own to call an Uber. Or maybe they just got tired of dealing with her because
she drunk.
She couldn't tell them where to go. It was around 3 a.m. It was rainy, dark, and Madison was standing alone on the side of the road when a rideshare driver, who likely never saw her, accidentally struck her with his car. 2 Good Samaritans stopped in the rain to perform CPR. She was rushed to the hospital, but she was pronounced dead because of her injuries.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And now she passes away at the hospital, and the hospital performs, a blood alcohol test on her. And it was concluded by the hospital that her blood alcohol level was a 0.319%. Now, according to research, and this is the research from all the articles that I was reading that was on the case, not necessarily research that I did myself. This is what they're saying for the research for the case in all these articles, is that according to research, that's the level where you risk alcohol poisoning and unconsciousness.
Dang,
so
dude.
At that point, you are blacking. If you're not already passed out, you're blacking in and out, and you're at risk of alcohol poisoning.
Okay.
Which means that you would be too sloppy, and you'd be too sloppy to really walk anywhere properly, and you would be incoherent enough to not even be able to consent to things, which would, according to them, make sense as to why she could not give directions to where they had to take.
Going, right.
Yeah. Now, the autopsy also revealed that there was injuries in her back cavity consistent with a sexual assault.
Oh, shit.
Her cause of death was ruled multiple traumatic injuries consistent with a second-degree vehicle collision with a pedestrian. The rideshare driver was never charged because he wasn't impaired, and he called 911 immediately after the accident.
Okay.
However, the 4 men that was involved that night with her before she got hit by the car, Kayvon Washington, who's 18, he was 18 at the time, got charged with third-degree sexual assault and was held on $150,000 bond.
Shit.
The 17-year-old minor was charged with third-degree sexual assault and held in juvenile detention. Kason Carver, who was the driver of the car, he's 18 at the time, was charged with accessory to third-degree sexual assault, held on $50,000 bond. And I later found out that even though there was no evidence that Kason had any sexual relations with Maddie, he was charged with rape, even though there was no evidence.
What?
And Everett Lee, who was 28 at the time, was charged with accessory to third-degree sexual assault and held on $75,000 bond.
Yes.
They all bonded out within 2 days.
Dang, what the hell?
And the court ordered them to be placed under house arrest with random drug testing every 180 days, which is, I believe, every 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, let's get back to this bar.
Yeah.
Because
it's a little suspicious.
There's some shit about this bar. Like, because
Reggie's bar.
Yeah, because the events that happened that night were very unfortunate, and there's a lot of blurry details at this point in time and then when I start
all
saying
we know is that Maddie went to the bar, she met up with these men, she was too drunk, she was dancing with them, then she left. But like, what happened in the bar with them? Like, what did they do? Did they drink? Like, did they roofie her?
Exactly.
Like, I don't know if like they tested her.
So
for
the
that.
bar is important. So the case made headlines, of course, right? LSU students, it's a popular, famous school.
Yeah.
And a student dies there, especially under like these weird
circumstances,
conditions.
and like she's a really good student. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's gonna set off alarms.
So it made the news, and it turns out, when the case started making headlines, Reggie's bar came under fire.
Ooh.
Now, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I have a few friends that are bartenders or have been bartenders in the past. And they've told me that the rule is if they see that somebody is way too intoxicated, you get cut off, right? Because you then become the bar's or the bartender's responsibility.
Yep.
Meaning, like, if you're stumbling all around the bar, and then you stumble over to the bar, and I can clearly see that, and the camera could pick up that I could see that, and you ask me for a drink, and I serve it to you, and you walk out the bar, let's say, God forbid, you stumble, you hit your head, or you get hit by a car, or anything.
Or you drive a car.
That's
the worst.
The person that last served you is responsible for what happened to you.
Of course.
So that's why, cutting them off and asking security to walk them out is usually taking the liability off of the bartender and the bar. The case made headlines. Reggie's bar came under fire, and their liquor license was suspended, and they shut down permanently. But this was not their first brush with controversy. Remember, I said earlier that this bar was shady and had some shit going on in the past. In 2017, police raided Reggie's bar and arrested 37 people for underage drinking.
What the hell?
In 2015, a 21-year-old man was arrested outside the bar after waving a gun at strangers. In 2016, LSU football player Dylan Gordon was stabbed multiple times at Reggie's bar. I do remember seeing that on the news. And in 2022, a 16-year-old boy named Curtis Tucker was shot dead outside of the bar. Despite this track record, the bar owners claimed that Madison, even though she had a fake ID, wasn't served alcohol in the last hour before she left, which is the most politically trying to be like business correct.
I'm going to be honest.
Like,
that just sounds like you just made it up on like at the spot. He literally was like, what can take off liability? We didn't serve her alcohol in the last hour. Now we served a minor alcohol. Like,
and they had a reputation of being an underage. Like, they had a reputation of serving underage people drinks. Apparently, if you check like the location on Snap, you could check the location on Snapchat and see like Snap stories from there. Apparently, all you see is a bunch of college kids tagging the bar, and you're seeing a bunch of girls like falling over. What? You see people puking. You see like just all the most wild Project X hangover movie looking
X.
shit that you could imagine from college kids. And a lot of them were underage. Now, you know, I've been to a homecoming at one of my friends' colleges before, and they drank the entire weekend. And none of them were underage. But I'm going to tell you what, though, there was quite a bit of people I saw getting turned away at the doors of these homecoming events because they were underage. And I remember hearing a few of them talking and saying, like a few of like women that was like in front of us. Well, I'm gonna say girls because they were like 17, 18.
What?
Like they were standing there, and I remember hearing a few of them go, no, you go first, you go first, you go first. And then they got up there. And like, because I remember hearing one of them also say, nah, because this place is kind of strict. And they got up there, and then like they all got turned away. Like once the bouncer saw that one of them was fake, he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, if I find another fake one, I'm gonna take it." And then he gave the other one back hers, and was like, and then they all just got off the line. I was like,
shit.
"Yo, what?" I had never been around like a group of people trying to get in with a fake ID.
Get in with the fake ID.
So
that's
like,
wild.
Apparently this goes on a lot in like these college towns and stuff.
Yeah,
but
it does.
so despite their track record, you know, he denied giving Madison any drinks within the last hour that she left, basically trying to give the most politically correct, I own the bar, don't shut my shit down answer. Now, also at the time, not only did the bar get exposed, but one of the guys in the car got exposed for something that he did 3 years prior to this.
Dang.
So on February 3rd, just 2.5 weeks after Maddie was killed, Kayvon Washington was arrested again, this time for a first-degree rape charge involving a 12-year-old girl when he was 15. And so, which means that would have happened in 2020.
Right.
The victim said that the victim said that they went to a pool party, and after the pool party, Kayvon barged into her house, ripped off her towel, and assaulted her for nearly an hour. She's, you know, and then basically told her, you know, go check on yourself. Like after, and then just walked out of the,
what the
and
hell?
walked out. So it took her nearly a year to speak up about what happened. And she eventually told her mom. Her mom, of course, went immediately to the police, and the investigation started. But for some reason, the case ended up stalling. Now, with Madison's death and the case starting to trend all over the news and all over, you know, TikTok and Snapchat and things like that, it brought light back to Kayvon. So they reopened the case, and yeah, then they were able to charge Kayvon with first-degree murder. Now, I meant first-degree rape. Now,
from the 12-year-old girl.
For the 12-year-old girl. Now, here's the thing, though. First-degree rape in the state of Louisiana is a life sentence. Yeah.
That's good, though.
So the
Don't get me wrong.
third or second degree that they were getting charged with in Maddie's case did not carry anywhere near
as much weight
as this one. So now he's facing life, and he has to battle 2 cases. Now the community starts getting divided because of this whole situation.
Right.
Because on one end, everyone's mourning the death of Maddie, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Here's this bright young college girl that's doing everything right. She just wants to go out in the town and have some fun. She asked 4 guys for a ride, potentially gets sexually assaulted. We still don't know if that's fully true or not. And, you know, ends up dead by the end of the night. Not necessarily by those guys, but those guys were the last guys that she was with. And for some reason, they left her out on the side of the road, which then led to her getting killed. But then on the other side, there's people that are saying, well, Maddie was technically a grown woman. She was 19 years old. Even though in the eyes of everybody else, you're a kid.
Right.
You're grown enough to go out and get a fake ID.
Right.
You're grown enough to go to the bar and drink. Apparently, it was caught on camera. She was drinking random drinks off of the bar that night, as well as the drinks that were being purchased. So
that's not good.
So, you know, a lot of people on the other side of the fence were saying, well, hey, if you're so grown enough to go out drinking like that and get that intoxicated, and then you walked up to them and asked them for a ride.
That's kind of your fault.
It's not like, yeah, people are saying like, yeah, it's your fault. And like, and I don't believe most of those people, when they're saying this, are necessarily trying to victim blame as the way that the media is trying to point it.
Okay.
I think, and I'm just trying to call this straight down the middle and get both sides out. I think what people on the personal responsibility side are trying to say, it's an unfortunate event that this girl got that intoxicated to the point where she
is no longer alive.
Wanted to have a wild night, probably agreed to have sex or didn't. And regardless of what, it was not these 4 individuals in the car that were even around when she died or had anything to do with the thing that killed her.
Yeah.
She then left the car. We don't know. We were not there.
If she got kicked
out
right.
or if she was
voluntarily
got out. But all we know is that she left the car, so she was not harmed anymore. And the thing that ended up killing her was not these 4 guys. So those people that are saying that are basically saying, we understand that it's a messed up scenario, but then now trying to say, oh, well, then she must have been raped, isn't fair to those 4 guys because we don't know.
Yeah. And
it seems like you're just trying to get justice for a very sad situation.
Yeah.
But at the cost of these 4 individuals who, even though morally it might be weird, what happened doesn't necessarily mean it was a crime. That's the best way I could put what those people mean without trying to take the extreme route and make it sound like they're victim blaming. Because I get what those people are trying to say.
Yeah, it's kind of
like, get what the people that want to defend and charge them are trying to say.
Yeah.
Because it is a gray area.
It is. It's a very thin veil that it's hard to lift because you don't know the full on details of exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But you do know that part of the reason why she ended up dead in that situation was because she was drunk.
Yes. And that's why the people that talk about personal responsibility are saying she made that choice.
Right.
Right. It's funny because I don't remember the context in which the conversation came up, but I do remember the end product of the conversation was, hey, if you go out and you get really drunk and you get so drunk that like, you start to make decisions that you might not be so proud of the next morning. And during that time when you're that intoxicated, somebody walks up to you and says, they see that you're clearly drunk. And they say, hey man, I really need $5 for gas. Do you have $5? And you say, yeah, I have $5. Even though you're so drunk, you give them the $5. You can't then wake up the next morning and file a police report and say that you were robbed because you gave them the $5. Now, that's not the same as sex, obviously. But there are 2 things that could happen with sex and with giving the money.
Of course.
There is you ask and it's reciprocal energy and it happens. Or 2, you take it. Now, that's where the lines get tricky.
Yeah.
Now, because that's where the lines get tricky, apparently there's a video of when they're in the car and you can apparently hear a conversation that's happening.
Oh.
And the attorneys of the 4 men say, hey, you can clearly hear her consenting. But when the judge listened to the footage, the judge said, I don't hear that. I just hear a girl that is incoherently, obviously drunk, and guys in the car that's laughing. Which that mixed with the evidence of her injuries say that that's rape.
Yeah.
Now,
that's also it because she's so incoherently drunk. She could have said yes and then changed her mind. Now,
here's also the other thing. According to Kaysen's attorney, she even propositioned him for sex. Remember, Kaysen was in the front seat. Kaysen was not the initial 2 that was engaging in sex with her. And according to Kaysen, she propositioned Kaysen for sex as well. He declined. and she slapped him when he refused and mocked his sexuality.
What?
Basically saying like, oh, like inclining like, hey, like you must be gay because you don't want,
gay. Yeah,
you know, you don't want to partake. And the defense is also fighting the blood alcohol level results, claiming that the hospital records might have been inaccurate because Madison was seen walking and talking as they were leaving the bar. And according to that blood alcohol level, if you're on the verge of blacking out and on the verge of alcohol poisoning, the way that she walked out of the bar, walked up to them to ask for a ride, walked to the car at 1 o'clock in the morning,
right,
last seen on footage alive, that does not look like the blood alcohol level of somebody that is that drunk. Now, you're also talking about time passing by.
Yep.
You're talking about another 2 hours after that. So it would be going down, if anything, not more up, unless they were drinking in the car as well, in which nobody has said that drinking has continued. So,
but they necessarily wouldn't say that because I think that within itself is a whole nother crime.
it is, but and would probably implicate them more. So like we don't know that, but based on the details that we do know, the defense is trying to say that
That's
cannot be true.
Yeah.
Like that. We believe that her blood alcohol level was probably high, but that high to where she'd be that incoherent to where you could say that she could not consent doesn't make sense because how did she walk to the car under her own volition?
The cameras show her.
The cameras show her just walking kind of fine to the car. Like not like obviously she's tipsy and stuff, but not to the level of
incoherentness.
319. No.
They're saying there's
Now, here's the last bit of back and forth fighting evidence that's also a little update that came within the last year. Attorneys for Carver and Carter argue that new evidence presented a year after Brooks was killed showed that she had consensual rough sex with another man the day before she died. They said that the injuries noted during her autopsy were not from the alleged rape that they're accusing them of, that occurred back in Carver's vehicle.
Right.
But in March 2024, District Attorney, I think Hillary Moore, said that the motion violates the Louisiana Code of Evidence because it discusses a victim's past sexual behavior, which the code requires to be in documents kept separate and sealed.
Now you're breaking laws to defend yourself in public at it.
And a year later, the First Circuit Court of Appeals sided with the DA, saying that the newly found evidence could not be used at trial.
Oh, shit. How was this evidence found? Did they ever say?
I don't know. Maybe it's text messages, maybe. But they have evidence
that's like substantial.
Yeah, apparently there's evidence that she did engage in sexual activity, rough sexual activity the day before this happened. And, you know, and I get why the court would say from a general standpoint, hey, we can't use a victim's sexual past.
Yeah.
But I do feel like in some situations, it is important.
Yeah.
Because if that is the case, then if the injuries are what you're going based off of to say that she was assaulted,
right,
but she got those injuries doing something else, then that wouldn't be fair to the next person. Because that'd be like, as shady as this sounds, and that's why this is such a gray area. And I think that that's why these types of cases attract so much attention, because it's those down the line type of instances.
Yeah.
Imagine if, let's say it's a clean slate and the day before somebody has rough intercourse and they end up breaking or dislocating a part of their body, like their collarbone or their neck or something, like they end up with like bruises around certain areas. And then the next day you have sex with somebody else that you meet at a bar. And let's say it was consensual.
Right.
Now, let's say you wake up the next morning and you regret that decision. What's stopping you if you hate the person that you just had sex with, or don't like them, or they say something you don't like, or whatever happened, they don't text you back, and you go to the cops and you say, hey, I was assaulted. Now, they would check your injuries, and clearly you have injuries.
Right.
And clearly there's evidence that we met up that you and so from yesterday met up to do something.
Right.
But now, what if the person that met up with you yesterday goes, no, but I didn't do any of the choking stuff. We just had sex. I didn't do any of the aggressive stuff. But I found out that she had sex the day before and that was actually rough.
Right.
Now, imagine the court say, but that can't be included. It's now you versus the word of, because now you're the last known person to have intercourse with this person.
Yeah.
And they have injuries and they're trying to say that it was not consensual.
Yeah.
So now not only do I have to prove that it was consensual, I have to prove I also didn't put these marks on. And the marks are the only thing, the marks are the key indicator, red flag of injuries,
Right.
which take it from possibly consensual to leaning more towards not consensual. And I think that that's why some like certain laws, even though they're meant to help, end up muddying the waters a little more.
Here's what I find a little bit weird, right? And this is like what's important in cases like this, because, okay, you can't tell if this was consensual considering this person died and they can't speak for themselves and you don't have physical like evidence or like a video or anything to prove that they did consent.
Oh,
right?
apparently there is a video.
Yeah, but a clear video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like something very clear, something that makes sense. This is where those autopsies come into play, because think about it. We only know that her blood alcohol level was above being alive, basically. Like you couldn't function properly if your blood alcohol level was that high. So now if you think about it, right? What other tests did they run? Did they see if she was roofied? Did they see how long ago the injury was? Was it a little bit on the fresher side? Was it a little bit on the older side? Yeah, if it was a day before, it's going to be relatively fresh, but it's not going to be as fresh as if it just happened a few hours before she died.
That's true. Now, there is a video. The New York Post posted it 2 years ago, and this looks like it's taken from Kayvon Washington's phone. Now, the title of this video that they titled on YouTube, I'm not even going to say what the title is. I'm just going to play the video.
Yeah.
That way we can hear for ourselves, what do we think we hear? This is my first time seeing the video too.
2 days, a grand jury will convene in Baton Rouge to decide whether to bring formal charges against 3 men accused of raping LSU student Madison Brooks. She died last month after she was hit by a car on Burbank Drive. Chris Nakamoto in the investigative unit here now with a look at that turning point and what the defense says about one piece of potential evidence.
Michael, the district attorney has said all along this is one case that would go before the grand jury to get formal charges in place. And we can tell you tonight it's happening this week. But defense attorneys are already looking beyond any possible indictments to a trial. And a short piece of video recorded that January night is likely to play a key role if that does take place. We do want to note this report addresses the subject of rape and includes content that some may find unsettling. This video was a crucial piece of evidence because you can hear Madison Brooks communicating with the suspects.
I'm sorry that I offended you that bad. Get out. I will Uber on my own.
This is video of LSU student Maddie Brooks taken inside the vehicle on January 15th.
So she said she's going to Uber on her own. She's apologizing for something that she said.
Yeah.
Okay.
They claim to have additional footage that's yet to be released to the public that shows Brooks giving verbal consent to sex. Now, remember, the only thing that got spoken about somebody being offended or anything like that was the guy that she allegedly offered sex to that denied it.
Right.
Now, we haven't seen the rest of these videos. We haven't seen the rest of the footage now, but hold on. Based on what I'm seeing here,
right,
I don't want to make any assumptions, but it looks like Kayvon, the guy that's recording, looks as though he's recording it in a way as like evidence.
Yeah, like this is
like
her,
just in case anything. Like, and you can see the other guy. This is clearly, obviously, this. I can assume that this is the 17-year-old that's on the opposite side of her. You could see him getting out because she goes, "Get out, I'll Uber home."
Yeah,
and you see him getting out almost immediately.
That's true.
Now, look, I'm not here to say what I believe.
Right.
I think that as a podcaster, as somebody that's just presenting the information of this case,
Yep.
somebody that's just having a conversation about it, I feel like my only job here is to present the information, but then speak more to what we can learn from cases like these.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't necessarily want to formulate an opinion. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
All I know is that tragically she lost her life
Right.
because of decisions that
A series
she
of
made,
decisions.
decisions that
The guys
that
made.
the guys made,
Yeah.
not necessarily blaming them for her death, but
Right.
like all of everyone's decisions put them where they were, put her where she was.
Right.
And it unfortunately went bad.
Right.
Now, whether or not she was sexually assaulted is a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is that bright young college student ends up passing away due to underage drinking and, you know, possibly being neglected. We don't know.
Right.
But she gets struck. And I think that all I can see is the lesson that's here to be learned. Now, Madison's legacy is that, you know, she ends up, her family honors her. They start up a Madison Brooks Foundation to advocate for organ donation and the safety of young women. Madison's heart and kidneys were donated to save other lives. And there's now a star in the International Space Registry named after her, as well as a Facebook group started by 2 LSU students called LSU Girls Ride, which is a volunteer network where girls can request a safe ride home completely
really good.
free so that no one has to rely on strangers ever again.
Yep.
And like I said before, this is just the story of, you know, a woman whose light was dimmed way too soon.
Yep.
And
Based on a series of decisions from herself and other people around her.
yeah, and it
And
could have been a series of it ended up being a series of unfortunate events in the end by
the
getting
end.
struck by the car.
Yep.
But the whole reason that they're in court is over the
Whether
rape
they're guilty
portion
or
of
not.
it.
Yeah.
But
We will, and that's the thing.
yeah.
Until the footage is released, until all the documents are released and everything is fully set, like the public won't really ever know. And it depends on Louisiana laws whether or not we'll know more details on the video footage, her past sexual history, things like that. We might not ever know based on
Well, no, they
depending on
can't
the
do
law.
they can't do any past sexual history.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Depending on the law, we might not ever hear certain parts of the evidence. So as an overall audience, it might be hard to kind of like pull the pieces together fully because there will be some blank spaces. But I think honestly, one, as a woman, like if you're gonna go outside and you're gonna go ham and drink, you need to be aware of like, one, your surroundings, know how you're gonna get home, and 3, like, if you're going to get to that point, at least be with someone that you trust that either is not going to get as blackout drunk as you or you trust enough to kind of like help you. Does that make sense? Whether
Yeah.
that's a ride, whether it's being with you, whether it's like calling you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And for the guys, I think it's like a whole nother lesson within itself because it's like, okay, first off, you guys are underage going to a bar. That's the first thing.
Yeah, most of them were underage.
Most of them.
Most of them, yeah.
Okay, the 28-year-old. Why are we hanging out with 17 and 18-year-olds? That's not making sense. Right
And
there.
condoning the underage drinking
Yes.
on top of a sexual act happening in the back with
Right.
one of them being a minor. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
So that was this episode of Voltage and Villains. If you enjoyed the episode and you're watching it on YouTube, like the video, subscribe if you're not. Turn on automatic downloads on Spotify. That way they automatically download to your profile. And be safe and do good. Take care.
Bye.